was a procession.
You get down from there.
He was fading and the car just came out of nowhere. He don't drive.
Full lifeline. I'm not gonna let you die, Victor.
Where are we with those units? He's losing a lot of blood.
Come on.
It's not meant to be broken. Come on, Doc. The dead walk.
The ground is sour.
Fix this.
Daddy.
The story starts with a little girl named Ellie who was playing by the side of the street in a peaceful neighborhood. Suddenly, she saw her beloved pet cat right in the middle of the road. It was the same cat that had died a few days ago. She is shocked and overjoyed to see the cat alive again. Without thinking about the danger, she ran toward it across the busy street. She was completely unaware that a large truck was speeding down the road from behind her at high speed. At the same moment, her little brother also ran toward the street to follow his sister. The truck was approaching rapidly. As soon as Louis, Ellie's father, saw this dangerous scene unfolding, he acted without thinking. Without hesitating, he sprinted forward, desperately trying to save his son. He grabbed his son and pulled him away from the road. But in his attempt to save the father and son, the truck driver lost control of the vehicle. The truck swerved and overturned. The heavy tank loaded on top of the truck began to roll toward the little girl standing by the roadside. By the time Louis reached there, running frantically with panic in his heart, his daughter Ellie was already lying in the bushes by the side of the road. She had been struck by the massive tank. Louis collapsed, holding his daughter's lifeless body tightly to his chest. He was devastated and broken. The untimely death of their daughter Ellie completely shattered both parents from within. Both Louis and Rachel were lost in memories of their daughter day and night. They could not eat, could not sleep, could not function. Louis especially could not accept Ellie's death and blamed himself for not protecting her. The tragedy consumed them. Louis made a dangerous and desperate decision one night. He went to his daughter's grave in the cemetery and exhumed her body. He removed her casket from the ground. He then took her to a distant hilly area about which a local legend was popular. The legend said that the soil in that special place had the power to bring the dead back to life. The locals called it a sacred burial ground. After some hesitation and internal conflict, Louis buried his daughter in that mysterious cemetery on the hill. He believed that if anyone could be brought back to life, his beloved daughter Ellie could be. He believed he was responsible for Ellie's death because he had moved the family to this village near a dangerous highway. Just a few days earlier, the entire family had moved to this village from the city, leaving their old life behind. Ellie had been very happy in this new place and in their new house. The property was beautiful and peaceful. When Louis bought this house, it came with 50 acres of land for free. It seemed like a great deal, but there was a major problem. There was a highway close to the house on which heavy trucks and vehicles often sped by at dangerous speeds. This was the highway where Ellie had been hit and killed. The next day, Louis left for his duty at the hospital. He was a doctor, and on his very first day at the new hospital, he had to attend to an emergency case. At home, Ellie's mother, Rachel, and his other son were alone. That is when they heard a strange noise coming from outside. Both of them moved in the direction of the sound and saw some strangely dressed children carrying animal carcasses in a small trolley. The children were dressed in old-fashioned clothing and moved silently. Ellie asked her mother, "What are they doing?" Rachel replied that they were probably performing some religious ritual or custom of the village. But Ellie's curiosity was increased by what she saw. She quietly started following the strange children. After walking a short distance through the woods, they came across an old signboard that read cemetery. Ellie went inside the cemetery and saw several graves. Suddenly, her eyes fell on a wooden gate made from tree branches, as if someone had intentionally blocked the way to a deeper part of the cemetery. The gate was constructed to prevent people from going further. She tried to climb over it, but suddenly a loud sound startled her, and she fell down to the ground. An old man appeared in front of her, and Ellie got scared. She was frightened by this sudden appearance, but the man gently bent down and removed the thorn that was stuck in her foot. He was kind and gentle, despite his frightening appearance. During the conversation, she learned that his name was Judd, and he lived nearby in the village. He was an elderly neighbor. Slowly, they became friends. Judd told her many interesting and mysterious things about the cemetery and the history of the place. He spoke of rituals and ancient practices. Meanwhile, Rachel also arrived at the cemetery searching for Ellie and found her talking with Judd. Rachel thanked Judd for being kind to her daughter. Judd warned them that wandering alone in this forest was dangerous, as people often lose their way in the dense woods. He advised them to be careful and not to wander too far. Meanwhile, a terrifying incident was happening at the hospital where Louis was working. A nurse came running to him covered in blood. She was panicked and gasping for breath. It was reported that a young student had met with an accident while riding a skateboard. The student had been hit by a car or fallen badly. Louis, the doctor, tried his best to save the student's life using all his medical knowledge and skills. But despite his best efforts, he could not save him. The student died on the operating table. Louis felt devastated that he could not save this young life. Suddenly, something very strange happened. The lights in the operating room began flickering strangely and erratically. The electrical power seemed to be malfunctioning. And then, the doctor saw something impossible. The dead student suddenly sat up on the operating table and started saying strange things. His eyes were open but empty. His voice was hollow and wrong. He seemed to be speaking from somewhere else, somewhere dark. The doctor was left completely shocked and horrified by what he was witnessing. Just then, the nurse came back into the room. When the doctor looked again at the operating table, the student was lying quietly as if nothing had happened. The student was back to being a corpse. It was as if the previous moment had been an illusion or a hallucination. But the doctor knew what he had seen was real. Something was wrong with this place. That night, upon returning home, Louis told his wife Rachel that he could not save a child's life at the hospital today. He was deeply upset about it. Rachel knew that Louis was blaming himself deeply and felt terrible about his failure to save the student. She tried to comfort him, but he was lost in his own despair. At midnight, Louis heard some strange noises coming from outside. He looked outside the window and felt like someone was standing there watching him. Someone was out there in the darkness. Suddenly, someone called his name from behind him in the house. As he turned around, the door opened by itself with no one touching it. Someone or something walked out through the open door. Without thinking or questioning what was happening, Louis followed that mysterious person. The figure headed toward a dense forest. After walking a short distance, the figure suddenly disappeared into the thick fog that had rolled in. Louis also walked into the fog, not knowing what he was looking for or why. He found himself in a strange animal cemetery. Dead animals were buried there. There he saw the same old wall made of dry branches that he had heard about. He was just about to cross when someone grabbed his leg from behind. Terror seized him. At that moment, Louis woke up abruptly in his bed. But as soon as he pulled off the blanket, he saw that his feet were covered in dirt. His legs were dirty and muddy. Now he realized it was not just a dream. Something had actually happened. He had physically been to that cemetery in the night, even though he could not remember walking there consciously. The next morning, Louis was cleaning the yard when he saw his neighbor Judd standing nearby. Judd called out to him and asked him to come closer to where he was standing. Lying on the ground was Ellie's beloved pet cat, Church. The cat was dead. Judd told him that perhaps a car had run over the cat on the nearby highway, the same highway that had killed Ellie. They decided not to let Ellie find out about this tragedy at night. She was still grieving her sister's death and could not handle more loss. So Louis and Judd decided to bury the cat in the old cemetery on the hill. On the way to the cemetery, Judd asked Louis, "What will Ellie do if she finds out that her beloved cat is dead?" Louis replied sadly, "She will cry a lot. She considered Church a part of the family. The cat was important to her." Hearing this, Judd took the cat's body and told Louis to follow him to a special place. He led Louis across the old wall covered with bushes and reached the base of a hill. There was a small river where white bones were visible in the water, the bones of countless animals. Climbing up the stairs made of stone, they reached the top of the hill. This was the sacred burial ground. Judd told Louis that he would have to bury the cat with his own hands and place 4 stones on top of the grave in a specific pattern. It was an ancient ritual. Louis found this strange and unusual, but he did as instructed. He dug a hole, placed Church's body inside, and covered it with soil. He placed 4 stones on top of the burial spot as Judd had instructed. The next morning, Louis and Rachel told Ellie that the cat had gone out somewhere and had not come back. But Ellie did not believe them. She said, "I saw him outside my window last night." When Louis looked out the window, he indeed saw several paw prints on the ground. Fresh paw prints. Ellie pointed toward the cupboard and said with certainty, "Church is in there." As Louis approached the cupboard and opened the door, he found the cat sitting inside. The cat was alive. Louis was shocked and confused because he himself had buried Church on the hill just the day before. But there was something very wrong about the cat now. When Louis looked into Church's eyes, there was no innocence there anymore. Only a strange and terrible cruelty. The cat's eyes were cold and empty and filled with something dark. The cat seemed changed. It was still Church physically, but something was very different about it. Something inside the cat had changed. Louis immediately went to Judd and asked, "What is happening here? How is Church alive? I buried him myself." Judd simply replied, "There are some places in this world that do not follow any rules. The hill has power that we do not understand." He seemed to know more than he was telling Louis. That night, Church's body started to smell bad, as if it was decomposing, even though the cat was alive. Ellie thought of giving the cat a bath to clean it and get rid of the smell. But as soon as she began brushing the cat's fur, the cat suddenly pounced on her and scratched her viciously with its claws. Deep scratches appeared on Ellie's skin. Ellie ran away in fear and pain. Louis quickly treated her wounds and cleaned the scratches. Ellie started feeling scared and unsafe in her own room. She told Louis, "Daddy, please close the door. I am scared of the cat. Do not let it in here." She was terrified of her own beloved pet. Louis had made up his mind that now the Church, the cat, had to be gotten rid of permanently. He could not keep the evil creature in his house any longer. That night when Louis lay down on the bed exhausted and troubled, his wife Rachel planned something special to comfort him and lift his spirits. But just then, Church appeared in the bedroom again. And this time, there was a dead bird in its mouth. The cat had killed a bird. Rachel screamed in fear. Louis finally decided, "Enough is enough. This has to end." As soon as he tried to catch Church, the cat leaped at him and attacked his hand savagely. Then it ran downstairs. Louis followed the cat downstairs, determined to deal with it. Downstairs, he saw an old door completely engulfed in darkness. The door seemed to lead to a place of shadow. But look at Louis's courage. Despite his fear, he went inside that dark door. It was dark everywhere inside, but ahead he saw a forest. He was in some kind of alternate reality. The scene is disorienting and strange. After that experience, Louis talked to his wife Rachel about preparations for their daughter Ellie's birthday. Both of them planned the party together and thought about inviting friends to celebrate. They were trying to maintain some sense of normalcy in their lives, despite everything that was happening. The next morning, when Louis came to the drawing room, he saw a strange picture drawn on the wall. At first, he thought Ellie had drawn it, but Ellie said that her little brother had drawn it. The picture was disturbing and showed dark and violent imagery. Louis sensed that something was wrong with this. He immediately ran to his son's room to check on him. He saw their pet cat sitting over his son, looking angry and threatening. The cat was perched on the boy's chest. Louis saved his son from the cat and held him safely. Louis became sure that something mysterious and evil was happening on that hill where they had buried the cat. He went back to Judd and told him everything that had been happening. Judd gave him an old book and explained that rituals used to be performed on that land long ago. The book contained ancient knowledge. Judd explained that any creature buried on that hill could come back to life. But the creature that returns is not the same. It comes back wrong and evil. Judd revealed a dark secret. He had also buried his dog on that hill many years ago. The dog did return alive, but it became extremely violent and dangerous. Eventually, Judd had to kill it to prevent it from harming anyone. But Judd had thought that Louis's cat would not turn out that way. Now Judd regretted telling Louis about that place. He realized his mistake in revealing the secret. Louis returned home thinking of giving the cat some sleeping medicine to put it down painlessly. But when he got home, the cat sat there looking innocent and harmless. The cat looked at him with those innocent eyes it used to have. Louis's heart melted seeing the cat like this. Instead of harming it, he decided to leave the cat in a deserted forest far away so it could live there and not harm anyone. After returning home, they celebrated Ellie's birthday. But Ellie was sad because she missed the cat that had been left behind. To change the mood and make her happy, Louis suggested they all play hide and seek in a secret game. During the game, Ellie hid and wandered near the roadside. Suddenly, she saw the cat returning. The cat had come back. Filled with joy and excitement, she ran toward it. But from the other side of the road, a truck was approaching at high speed. Seeing her, her little brother also ran in the same direction to follow his sister. Louis saw all of this happening and rushed to save his son. But the driver was looking at his phone and lost control of the vehicle. The truck overturned and headed straight toward Ellie. This was the same scene with which the story had begun. Ellie was struck and killed once again. This was the same tragedy repeating itself. Now everyone was gathered at Ellie's funeral. The circle was complete. The tragic wheel had turned again. After their daughter's death, Rachel was devastated and heartbroken beyond measure. She could not stay in the house any longer. She left for her parents' house with their son to escape the place of tragedy. Louis was left alone in the house with his grief and guilt. His family had abandoned him. He was isolated with his pain. That night, he went to Judd's house and started drinking alcohol with him. Louis was drowning his sorrows in alcohol, but Louis secretly mixed sleeping pills into Judd's glass of drink. He was planning something terrible. While drinking, Judd started to realize everything that Louis was doing. He understood Louis's intentions, but before Judd could react or do anything, he passed out from the sleeping pills. Judd collapsed, unconscious. Louis sat in his car, lost in thought and dark determination. He was going to do something terrible. He picked up a shovel and went to Ellie's grave in the cemetery. He dug up his daughter's body once again. The casket was opened, and he lifted his beloved daughter's lifeless body. He carried it toward the mystical hill where the resurrection magic supposedly worked. On the way, he passed the same graveyard where he had earlier seen the dead boy, Victor. The ghost boy tried to stop Louis and explain everything. He tried to warn Louis of the danger. But Louis was unaffected by the ghost's warnings. He was determined to bring his daughter back, no matter the cost. The scene shifts to Rachel at her parents' house. Her son pointed toward a corner, saying, "Mom, there was something there." Rachel replied, "Let us leave this place." When Rachel looked toward the corner, there was nothing. But her son could clearly see someone standing there. A dark figure was watching them. He returned home and arranged Ellie's clothes neatly in her room as if preparing for her arrival. He quietly sat in the room, waiting. He waited anxiously for his daughter to return from the dead. Suddenly, he heard strange noises near the door. He rushed outside but saw no one. As he turned back, he noticed wet footprints on the ground leading straight to the basement, the wet footprints of a small child. Following the footprints downstairs, he reached near his pet cat's old hiding place. When he pulled back the curtain, there was only a terrifying mask lying there. His daughter was nowhere to be found. Louis's heart shattered. The resurrection had not worked as he hoped. Or had it? Just then, from behind, someone called out, "Papa!" When Louis turned around, he saw his daughter standing there. She had returned. He ran to her and hugged her tightly. Tears welled up in his eyes upon seeing her condition. She was pale and cold and seemed not quite alive. He then cleaned her up, bathed her, and combed her hair carefully. But as he combed her hair, the injuries on her skull started to show through. The deep wounds from the truck accident. Her head was damaged. Louis's heart trembled with horror and sorrow, but still he dressed her in new clothes and put her to sleep in her bed. The next morning when Louis woke up, he saw Ellie once again wearing those same dirty old clothes that she had been buried in. She was dancing in the home as if nothing was wrong. She was moving strangely and unnaturally. At first, Louis smiled, but within moments, Ellie started smashing and breaking things in the house violently. She was destroying everything. She was angry and chaotic. Louis shouted at her in anger and frustration. Ellie's eyes turned red with rage as if something dark was controlling her. She was no longer his daughter. She was something else wearing his daughter's body. Just then, Rachel called on the phone. Louis was terrified. He was afraid she might discover what is happening. Out of fear, he cut the call abruptly, hung up without explaining anything. Rachel was worried and called their neighbor Judd, asking him to go check on Louis. She was concerned about what was happening. Judd immediately went to Louis's house and knocked on the door urgently. But Louis did not respond to the knocking. When Judd insisted and called out, Louis replied that he was sick and that coming inside could cause an infection. Judd should stay away. Judd was suspicious of these excuses, but he left the house. As he walked away, he glanced up and saw Ellie staring directly at him from the window. She was watching him intently with those cold, empty eyes. Her gaze was terrifying and full of malice. Terrified, Judd ran back to his own house and locked the door. He was so frightened that he immediately fetched his old revolver gun to protect himself. Suddenly, he heard a sound from upstairs in his house. Nervously, he went up, checking all the rooms one by one. But he found no one. He sighed in relief, believing he was safe. He was about to head downstairs when he heard a cat's meow behind him. He turned around and saw the same cat Church. But then a face appeared in front of him. It was the face of his wife. She said, "You should not have told Louis about that place." But in the very next moment, her face changed into Ellie's. Ellie said, "Now I will take you to where it all began." And she pounced on him, repeatedly stabbing him with a knife. Judd was killed. All of this happened in front of the cat's eyes. Meanwhile, Louis was searching the house desperately for Ellie. At that moment, Rachel arrived home with her son. She had come back, worried about Louis. Louis picked up the boy, but Rachel sensed something was deeply wrong. She noticed there was mud on Louis and injuries on his hands. She could tell he had been digging. She asked, "What have you done, Louis?" Louis was about to explain when suddenly Ellie came outside herself. She emerged from the darkness. As soon as Rachel saw her daughter, her entire body shivered. Something was wrong with Ellie. The thing that was Ellie looked wrong and unnatural. Ellie ran toward her mother to hug her, but Rachel, terrified, stepped back. She shoved Ellie away and ran upstairs with her son. She could feel that this was not her daughter. Louis ran after her, trying to explain that it was Ellie, their daughter, but Rachel refused to believe it. She said, "Our Ellie is dead. This is someone else. This is not our daughter." Just then they heard something fall outside the room. Both of them fell silent and heard the sound. They saw Ellie standing there outside the door, listening to everything they had said. Ellie heard herself being rejected by her mother. As soon as Louis reached the door, he saw that Ellie was no longer there. He thought maybe she had gone to the neighbor's house. But in reality, Ellie had already moved to the kitchen. In her hand, she held a sharp knife. She was going to do something terrible. Meanwhile, Rachel was lying in her room when suddenly Ellie attacked her with the knife. Rachel became alert just in time to partially defend herself, but still, she suffered a deep knife wound on her palm. The blade cut through her hand. After that, Ellie struck again. This time, she stabbed Rachel in the stomach. Rachel groaned in pain and agony. She shoved Ellie away desperately and grabbed her son. She fled the room with her child, running for her life. On the other hand, Louis saw that his neighbor Judd was already dead. He found the body. He now fully understood that something terribly wrong and evil was happening. He ran back to his home. There he saw Rachel trying to pass their son out of the window to escape. She was trying to get him to safety outside. Louis caught the child, but at that very moment, Ellie stabbed Rachel in the back. Rachel screamed in pain. Louis immediately locked the child in the car for safety and rushed upstairs. He found Rachel lying on the floor covered in blood. Her wounds were severe and bleeding heavily. When Louis held her, Rachel took her last breath. Before she died, she pleaded desperately, "Do not bury me in that place. Please, Louis, do not take me there. Anywhere but there." Before Louis could process her words and respond, Ellie struck him on the head with a heavy wooden chair, rendering him unconscious. Everything went black. Ellie then began dragging her mother's corpse toward the forest where the old animal cemetery was located. She was moving her mother's body toward the hill. When Louis regained consciousness, Rachel was gone. He realized with horror that Ellie had taken her body to that place. He had lost her. Louis ran into the woods in pursuit, hearing Ellie's voice echoing all around him. She called out, "Dad, you made a mistake by moving here." Her voice was twisted and wrong. Before Louis could say anything, Ellie appeared and stabbed him in the back. The knife pierced through his body. Louis collapsed in pain and agony. Ellie climbed onto him and placed the knife against his neck, ready to strike the final blow and kill him. She was going to end his life. But Louis was not one to give up easily even now. He mustered all his remaining strength and threw Ellie to the ground. He got up and picked up a shovel, ready to finish her off. He was going to kill the creature that wore his daughter's body. Just then, a metal rod pierced through his body from behind. The rod went straight through him. When he turned around, he saw a woman standing there. It was Rachel, Ellie's mother. But Rachel, too, had been resurrected. She had returned from the dead, just like Church and Ellie. Together, mother and daughter dragged Louis's corpse away. They took his body into the forest and buried him with the others. In the end, Louis's son, locked inside the car, watched through the window. He was the only survivor. He saw three figures approaching the car: his mother, his father, and his sister. But now all of them had changed. They were not human anymore. They were creatures wearing human bodies. Their eyes were cold and empty. They were wrong and twisted. The boy sat in the car, trapped and terrified, watching as his family approached him. And with that, this horrifying story came to an end. The cycle of death and resurrection continued. The sacred hill had taken more victims. The curse had spread. Let me know your thoughts about this terrifying tale. Thanks for watching. Also, subscribe to this channel for more horror stories and movie recaps like this.